Thanks so much for joining us here at WPG. We are delighted to have none other than composer, percussionist, and teacher Caleb Pickering. Caleb, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, it's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to catching up. It's
Yeah.
been I can't remember what tour, was it 2019? You joined
19.
the front end of it, I believe,
Hmm.
and scared everyone half to death with your composition that we commissioned at the time. I think Ksenia brandished you as a machine at that time. So,
Oh yeah, she's too flattering.
yeah.
Yeah, she can't say a bad thing about anyone.
Yeah, no, it was a very memorable tour. Really, really great
Yeah.
fun, and hopefully we can get back to that soon. So, okay, so for everyone watching, hopefully you joined us for our first showcase concert last night, and thank you for everyone with the really positive feedback. It's really great to hear that everyone's embracing what we're doing here at the WPG. So, thank you so much for that. We're going to move to our very first artist for this evening, which is going to be I Cheng.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi,
Hey.
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I Cheng, I gather you don't live that far away, but anyway, from each other, that is. Perhaps you could just tell Caleb a little bit about yourself and what you're going to be performing
Sure.
whilst I cue everything up. All right.
Sure. So I'm Yi Cheng. I'm originally from Macau, and I studied my bachelor degree at University of North Texas, and I just graduated with a master degree at Wichita State University. And today I'll be showing my the piece that I'm recently learning. It's called Asher by Emil. I didn't get a lot of experience playing with electronic track with instruments. So I would like you to give me some comments on my playing, and also since I'm still in the learning process,
Oh,
so I actually
cool.
Sure.
We actually had Emil surprise attendance the other day because he was with Vanessa at the time when she did her session, and we didn't even know. So that was
Nice.
quite cool. All right, here we go. Let's play this one. As ever, don't forget to mute your mics if you can, please.
Cool. This is.
Yeah.
I have not been very familiar with Emil's work until like the past week, and it seems like he's popped up a couple of times, and I love all of it.
Hmm.
Is this your first piece with working with tape or digital playback, rather?
It's not. My first one, it's the Tamarind piece by Casey, actually. And I played the other one, is called Real Back Now by John Savas, and this is my third one.
Cool. Yeah, it's tough. Have you played this one live any? I know you're still on the learning stage.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. I think the big
Sorry, Caleb. Yicheng, your mic's gone again. So I don't know if it's maybe it might be the AirPods. Sometimes it doesn't like the AirPods. So do you want to just
Maybe I would.
log in and log out again? Lose the AirPods, maybe.
Sure.
Thanks. Otherwise, I'll have some complaints. Yeah, I agree with you, Caleb. Actually, like I didn't know much of his work, and like recently, I see it like popping up everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's 7th World Marimba Competition Stuttgart 2022. Yeah, it's cool. I think Shorter's work with him. That's where I first heard, and yeah.
Is it better now?
No.
Oh, okay.
Log back in. Let's try now. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, it's better.
Okay.
Sorry, as you were.
My whole train of thought's gone. It's ruined.
Sorry.
I'm just kidding. Yeah. So the big tape question, whatever the word tape means anymore, I haven't used tape in 20 plus years. Do you find the tape is more of a accompanist or a duo partner?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is the tape supporting you, or are you and the tape one and the same? What do you think?
I would say we should be together. I think it's like a one thing for me.
Totally, yes, especially with this one too. Yeah, the tape is doubled so much in the marimba on some of those kind of semi-jazzy diminished licks going around. So that's great. I think any piece with tape or electronic playback of any kind, they're always so spooky to play live because I can play it here in our hall, and I've got my sound gear and the amps I know, and the PA in the hall that I know, and the hall I know, the instruments I know, and then I go an hour down the road to somewhere else, and suddenly it's a whole foreign animal again, and it's dealing with it. So I think in general, the big thing I try to do with tape is just plan for every worst possible case scenario thing to go, because it's probably going to happen. I've never had a tape piece performed not in my own campus that has gone flawlessly. They've all had something fail, or some wires missing, or the balance is a little iffy. So just something to keep in mind. And a lot of the times when I'm working on tape stuff, I'll have it real hot in my ears, and then I'll have it like real mellow in my ears if I'm listening like on headphones. So just whatever to make yourself as flexible as you can be. The piece is really cool. It's this nice little narrative, like a little bit of jazziness and groove with some contemporary elements. The one playing wise that I kind of, if you have the score open at least, let's see, this would be page 1. Oh, well, there you go. Technically page 2, where you start playing the marimba bit.
Yep.
So the composer puts in, there's lots of, let's see, we're in G minor, lots of tonal stuff, everything's in the key. And then he throws in these diminished licks like 45, 46, like bar 47, and they keep coming up. So for me, and at least in the recording I was listening to, I kind of wanted a little bit less of all of them.
Okay.
Yeah, because the bars before that are all, it's so solidly in G minor, like you have just basically thirds and sixths in the right hand, and then just power chords with sevenths in the left, and it's just descending down stepwise. You have this cool little, counterpoint idea of your right hand's got embellishments that are going up and they get wider, and your left hand's these power chords going down, so you get this cool parting of the C. And it's like such a powerful moment, just in composition, when you can get those static chords that go out and build. But then he has it all accented. But the next bar with all these diminished licks, everything is like dropped way, way, way down. And there's like some just pure cognitive dissonance. I know that's not the right word to use for this one. In those bars, because all the bars that are tonal, in the key in G minor, all the bass lines in the tape, they really line up with you, and it's like very safe and pretty and nice. But then when you get to those diminished scale ones, all the basses are offset by an eighth note from you. I think it'd be really cool to actually make a little bit less of the right hand and maybe a little bit more of the left, just personally. Because I didn't quite, and again, we're listening to a recording over the internet, so there's a thousand things that could be different. But I would love to hear that little hocketed pattern of ba-bum, 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 ba-bum between you and the tape. And then it's kind of cool because the bar before is so harmonically safe and rhythmically safe and lines up very nice. And then the next bar, the rhythm is dissonant, the scale is totally different and dissonant, and the direction of things in general is changed. You've got your bass line ascending and your right hand line ascending as well. It's all just going up very uniformly, just dissonant. So for me, I think that's kind of the theme of the piece. It's like when things are pretty, they're very lined up vertically and horizontally, and it fits the grid really well. And then when it's not. And I mean, I think it might be counterintuitive to say to downplay the dissonance, but I think with you and the tape being equal partners, I really would, because a lot of your stuff is doubled in the tape. And then when you get those loud parts to be loud and you're really sitting in the key, everything lines up. And then you can just get out of the way a little bit and let the cool colors of the synth take over. Because I think that's something that playing, especially marimba or vibraphone with tape, is always really cool, because the pretty stuff, the diatonic stuff is always whatever. But the colors that come of like this diminished scale and things, when you have like those cool synth sounds, that's like when it really sticks out, is when it's those synthy sounds and their crunchy scales or crunchy chords. And yeah, I think really, let the tape embrace some of the dissonance, personally. And it kind of goes on like that for a while. And this tune is almost, it's almost a tune. It's almost like an A, B, and then you improvise over it. Like it's got a very semi-song-like structure to it. So like say rehearsal mark 2, page 4. So by this point you've played, we'll just say the head down, and then you go back through, bass line, the synth's a little different, and then you're basically just improvising. You're just improvising over it for the most part, just written out improvisation. And so here's my question: have you played a lot of any jazz or drum set or new music improv or jazz improv? Or cool, great, that's good. Well, you went through UNC, right?
Right.
Oh, okay, yeah. So you've probably played a fair amount of jazz. Wow, I'm starting to echo back in. Is that fixed?
I've totally jinxed this session, Caleb, earlier.
I don't know. I
have. That's all right. It's fine. I think you're back.
Tim, who's somebody fire Tim? Who's running this thing? Just kidding. No, yeah. So for me, in the kind of improv-y parts in that rehearsal 2, where you go back and you hear the main material again, because it's doubled. It sounds like it's mostly doubled in the tape, or at least outlined in the tape. The part you're playing as well, a lot of it. It just doesn't always quite gel. So in this recording, are you doing? Is that playback recorded live, or are you recording it with in-ears, then you drop the tape on top of it later?
Yeah, I did drop like differently, so.
Cool, yeah. And that's, if you're going to record a video, that's totally the way to do it. because you can just line it up. You don't have to deal with delay and balance.
Right.
Yeah, it was just a little off. I can't say. I mean, it's not like, oh, it's all slightly too relaxed, or oh, it's slightly too tense. It's just little things you'll notice. I always call them like the launch points for syncopations. So like 66, 65 is fine. That's one we as percussionists love to play. Yep. All those runs feel really good to us. And then those syncopated figures, this is what gets a little messy with tape, is I really like how you play it, but unfortunately, I'm going to guess the tape is hyper quantized to be specifically on the grid. And that's where it gets a little messy. It's like, how do you play? Because you want to play it how we want to hear it, which is like grooving and relaxed. And even though it's syncopated, hyper legato and, smooth all around, so it flows. But the tape is not on board with that idea. It wants to play everything super mechanical. So unfortunately, of the two sources that can bend, it's going to have to be you bend to the tape, and which is funny because I find so often I have to tell people they're playing things like too percussively, like they need to play it looser and more relaxed. But actually, in this case, it's the opposite. Can you play it a little more computer-esque? Purely so that the notes line up on the grid. But I think all your phrasing stuff you're doing in there, I think you can just expand it. I think that's what's cool when stuff is doubled in tape, is that it says drop down to mezzo forte at that little backside of that hairpin in the second bar of 65, 66. Since you're doubled, you can probably go lower if you want to. Like if you're looking for something to express and you can't do it by pushing and pulling time, you can't expand dynamics a lot because you're doubled. So if you play some stuff and get real low at the end of a run, the tape is still going to be there to fill out those notes.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's just kind of in general through that whole rehearsal 2 part, where it's basically playing the same thing again with those improvisations over it. And then let's see. There's one other that was just a little. Rehearsal. Next thing, rehearsal 3, the section that kind of jumps out of nowhere. Like it feels like this whole piece, at least the first half we listened to, is like this simple concept of rhythmic dissonance and tonality is here, and there's this one little fragment that's trying to like break through and become the dominant voice. And it finally does break through by rehearsal 3, and we're fully in that little bit of crunchy territory. There's a lot of accidentals. But yeah, getting into that, it felt like 3, and I haven't looked through this whole piece, but I'm gonna imagine by the end, some of that more intense stuff does come back. But I think it'd be really cool if 3 could just be a little more. I know it's tough because your lowest note is like a low D, or sorry, D4. So you're really in the top half of the instrument. Some of that stuff I think you can do visually. Like it's like, there's only those high notes. Yeah, for me, I'd want more volume and more power because it's the first time that second voice actually breaks through, and like the dissonance is winning for a second before it dies back down.
Yeah.
But I mean, something I've learned from my past teachers is, if you can't physically play louder, you can put your breath into it. Some people exhale a lot. Maybe not so much in this because it's a lot of fast notes and you should keep breathing so you have, oxygen to fuel your body. We tend to like that. But visually, I mean, if you can turn it up the intensity just a notch, I mean, I think that helps so much. Percussion is so visual that, I'm sure you've seen it plenty of times when you see like a young player playing a marimba chorale and they do one of these coming up ready to play. They're getting the horses ready, and it's just like it breaks the mood a little bit. I think it's the same thing at 3. Like you can just dial up the intensity just a touch physically and let a little frustration out as long as you're, playing within reason. Yeah. Did you have any? Sorry, I'm just kind of going. It's all very good. I really like it all. do you have any questions in general? I have one more thing that kind of set with me throughout, but just curious if you have any.
Honestly, I would say my biggest, the hardest part for me is like number 3. So, so what you just said is kind of helpful for me to think about like how to play louder and yeah. So
Yeah, 3. I mean, for me, is well, you went to UNT and now where are you?
which is a stay.
Okay, so yeah, the process. Get out the metronome if you need it, slow it down, play through
Right.
it real slow, as we do.
Mhm.
Do the first chunk and the second chunk, put them together, play the chunk that connects them. Yeah, all the things to do.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. I think you do know what to do. So there's not much. The big one that kind of stuck with me, and this is just a hard lick to play, and it's through all of the piece, really, the course parts, like rehearsal 1, bar 36, 37, 38, 39, bar 40 and 42. Those alternating thirds, man, those da 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 da.
Yeah.
That's just tough.
Mhm.
Yeah. Isn't it funny that it's something that looks so simple? Yeah, on piano, I'm just alternating fingerings.
Right.
But yeah, for marimba, that is a really hard bar to play. If anybody doesn't have the score, it's talking about playing a B flat and a D,
Mhm.
one diet together, followed by an A national C, da 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 da, but with some bass notes to get to between them.
Right.
It's difficult, yeah. And especially bar 40, where you have it again. Well, you have it again in 42. But yeah, those repeated notes on the G and the B flat. For me, are you playing Burton?
Yeah.
Yeah. I play Stevens or something that looks like Stevens. I'm not really sure what it is anymore. But for me, yeah, those alternating thirds, you just lose some sound quality on them. And as you would, even if you're going very smoothly, there's still always that fear factor of the C natural and the B flat mallets. It's close, it is getting close. But if you could bring out, for me, it's always bringing out the second and the third notes when I have thirds or fourths or anything like that.
Mhm.
I know I'm going to get the first note. It's going to be clear because I have my arm weight and my wrist weight and velocity and mallet weight. But once I hit that first one, if I have to get to the next one with the same hand, yeah, it's not going to quite come out as quite as good. If I may ask, how do you stick that for bar 40 for those
I
thirds?
I actually alternated. So I do left, left, right, left, right, left.
Okay.
Yeah.
Left, right, left, right. Yeah. Yeah, and something else to think about that I would just throw into that. I'm gonna guess you're probably getting the B flat on the edge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just how the B flat speaks. Something that started to get me more and more in the years is passages like that, and you have that one accidental note that just doesn't quite speak, and it just makes you don't get the cool rugrattiness, as I'll call it, of the alternating thirds. You kind of get 50% of one note and all of the other. It just doesn't have the same characteristic sound. But really, the playing is really good, and it's a cool piece. I had not heard this one.
Yeah, it's a pretty new piece too. So
Yeah, 2022. Yeah, going forward, I think the big things, like when it got into I'm gonna call it the rhythm song section, 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 1, where you're starting to do those repeated note figures. Hey, there she is. Yeah. Yeah, just making sure it doesn't turn into anything that's not supposed to be. Like, it's so easy to turn that lateral 2-1 sticking, and crush it. Little things like that.
yeah.
But that is one of the challenges of playing with tape is making sure the grid is there. Let's see. Oh, we got a little time. Good. And then let's see, going into the end of it, like the end, I'm just kind of looking forward to what might be some iffy situations. looks like the second to last page and third to last page.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's another reprise of basically it's that rehearsal mark 3. You just get like the full stronger version of it that's more aggressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, just looking at that, again, you're 2 degrees down basically, you know what to do. But yeah, plan the arrival points. For me, yeah, whatever the narrative of the piece, just from what I've heard, is it's this very nice palette, almost John Soppa-ish, almost. It has that kind of continuous flow to it. And then there's that one idea, that diminished idea that's trying to break out. And by the end, it finally does, but then it gets subdued. Oh, nope. It very much ends. It looks a little crunchy. Cool. Yeah, so just planning energy points. So if whatever you want the peak to be, figure out what it's referencing before and try to balance and connect them. Yeah, any other questions from you? It's very good. I'm excited to see the whole thing. Pieces like this stress me out. A, because it's with tape, so that adds a variable already. And B, it's with tape with a lot of doubling, which means those wrong notes sure do stick out. And then 3, it's with tape and it's very tonal. So all those, what I call the grandma notes stick out, the ones where, the grannies in the audience are like, I heard that C sharp instead of a E flat. But yeah. Cool. No, it's great. It'll be cool to see the whole thing. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Great feedback. Thanks, Caleb. I-Ching, have you got any quick questions?
Yeah.
I do have one little question. Since I don't have a lot of experience playing electronic music with with electronic tracks, so I just wonder if you have your own practice method to practice a piece like that or prepare a piece like that, or any tips, something like that.
Yeah, sure. A big one for me is I listen to the tape a lot. I know this one is quantized, so it's a little easier, but I think it's really helpful to just put it on all the time because, it's like a song you like. It comes on the radio. You're so familiar with it that you just know it by heart, kind of. You know the sound and you know the rhythms coming up. And it's like if you play drum set, like learning your first rock drum cover, like you learn it by ear and like you listen to it. And once it's really set in you, it makes it a lot easier when you get to playing. And of course, all the normal things like dividing up the track or using like Audacity, the amazing slowdowner, things like that to slow down the track, or if it came with percentage slowdowns, doing things like that. But I think for me, I treat it as a normal piece I learn, and I just treat the tape as a duo partner that I have to control. So, all right, I'm going to practice. We're rehearsing our duo. We need to go slower. All right, I'm going to make you go slower so we rehearse correctly.
Yeah, it's like rehearsing with a very stubborn musician, isn't it?
Yeah. So you rehearse with Ksenia much? Sorry. She's gonna see this and throw me under the bus. No, she's fantastic, but I have to give her grief.
She's a computer.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, great. Nice one, I-Ching.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool job. All right, see you in a bit. Dagfinn, we're going to go to Norway now.
Hey,
buddy.
Norway.
Hello.
The floor is yours.
All right. Yeah. Well, so I'm studying at the Norwegian Academy of Music, taking a master's degree, and today I'm presenting another piece by Emil Grimkjan. This was written for Vanessa Porter, and as far as I know, it's only me and her that played it so far. So,
yeah,
what I like about this piece, and also makes it very difficult, it presents so many themes, and like, how do I shape them, as it's called.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if you have some feedback on how to all these themes.
Absolutely. Yeah, I gave it a listen, and it's dense. It's hard.
Yeah. It's hard.
All right,
Okay.
let's have a little listen.
Cool. Somebody's got to learn all those notes. It sure ain't going to be me. That's awesome.
Those runs are, yeah, thanks. Those runs are killing me. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's a cool piece, but yeah, it's tough. The rigorous section. Yeah, that one seems like it would be my my nightmare. It's great. Yeah, those runs.
Yeah, especially after the stop.
Yeah,
that's the worst part.
Yeah, it's tough. Funny enough, I find myself often. Well, here I'll back up a step. Any reason for the title shapes that you found, or in program notes, or your interpretation of why the title shapes?
I have no idea. I don't have any program notes or anything.
Even if you don't give the composer's vision of it, I'll always like to try to create my own, even if it's just a collage of mental images, just because it kind of helps me get the character. I mean, for me, like the first page is, so even though it's like groovy, it's very stable, and it's mixed meter, but it feels very stable and safe because there's a pattern that goes through. And then you get basically the same thing, but legato version, and then it just slowly becomes more chaotic with the little breaks in between. So yeah, anything you can find to connect to it. Do you know what tempo you were going in that video? A little under, a little over, right at?
Oh, I don't remember at the moment. Yeah, but I think I'm close to the tempo in the beginning, maybe.
Yeah, I think in this one, it just, for me, it's kind of like De La Cluse 9, if you've played that one. Like the high tempo of 69, even when it like people nail it, I'm like, ooh, you nailed it, but it feels like I felt scared the whole time. I feel like this one can just, you're playing great, maybe just shaving off 5 beats per minute per section, just enough to where all the notes come out, but maybe you get a little more cleaner, and you get to breathe a little easier because it's more comfortable in your hands. And at that point, 150 versus 145 beats per minute. If somebody's counting with a metronome in the audience to double check your time at that one, they're the jerk at that point. But maybe for me, maybe just shaving off a little tempo, purely for the instrument too, because vibraphone with the pedal and all, you can mute as much as you want, but it still rings, and if you're in a wet hall, then you have to kind of slow down anyways, so the reverb doesn't muddy everything up, and so it might just be something to consider. There are a lot of voices to balance in this. Yeah, there's a ton. It kind of feels like, to me at least, the whole like narrative of it, like melodically, and I think you see it throughout, but you see it most in what page is this? Page 5, like where it has the less rapid singing, like energetic. Feels like the whole tune is like they repeat a pitch, and then it tries to break out and go up or down, but every time it takes like a step, like that other voice that's the staccato voice kind of knocks it back down to its starting spot. Then it tries to go down, and then there's that 2/4 staccato bar that like readjusts it every time. And it happens in the beginning too. That high melody, you get B flat, B flat. It tries to go down, then it gets pushed back up. It tries to go up, then it gets pushed back down. Like it's on that B flat, and it's trying to get away from it, but it can't quite figure out where to go. And it expands up, expands down, goes farther up, goes farther down, until it kind of basically gets beat into submission by dissonant rhythms that like knock it back into a safe place. Or like at the end of the phrase, like the end of page 2, it knocks it into a whole nother level of crunchy harmonies and melodies. Yeah, it's a tough. It makes it tough because the melodies themselves are really easy to shape, but all the dang notes in between them make shaping it so hard because you're concentrating so much on the accompaniment. Of course, you played lovely. I loved it. It was great. The only thing I think I would really add is I would probably change a couple of rhythms very, very subtly, literally like the first bar of the piece, the third bar of the piece, the fourth bar, where you have those less at the beginning, definitely in bar 3, and then all the dotted 8/16ths that kind of randomly pop up, like in the second page and the third page. You get those eighth note, eighth note, eighth note, 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, a 1, a 2, those little skip rhythms. Even if you turn it into like a doubly dotted eighth note with a 30-second, just something to push it away. Because you know what, I always hate the 140 to 160 tempo range, because 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, and 1 law lead, 2 law lead, 3 law lead, 4, and then 1, the sixth note of the sextuplet to the downbeat, 1, a 2, a 3. They all feel so similar in that range that I think every time they pop up, even though I see a 16th and I like register it as a 16th, I can't help but hear it as like more tripletized. I just wanted it pushed over to be a little more little quicker, a little more staccato. Just from
Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I've ended up playing it more triplet for the groove to make it groovy, because I felt when I played it like really strict, it felt so I was playing bar by bar and I wasn't able to make like lines. So that was like how I did it, but I understand it's not exactly correct to play it.
Sure, yeah. For me, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, with the groove, and again, depends how you hear the groove. You know, is it 1 and 2 and 3, a 4, a 1? Like, is it a laid back triplet groove, or do you push it to be like a 30-second note going into the downbeat and make it like a tight groove? You know, it's no different than like, hey, let's play this swing tune. You know, do we want to do it in a tight groove, like a tight swing, or is it like a laid back swing? And both are right. You know, both are correct ways. It's just which one. I definitely see the triplet for the groove. For me, I always have to think about the halls. So I would probably lean a little stricter tempo, stricter rhythm, and push it back so the 16th is a little closer to the downbeat. But that's just a personal preference thing. There are a couple of sorry, I gotta find it. It's every time it's in the pattern of the 7/3/2 with the legatos. Sorry. You have repeated notes. Yeah. Here I can find a simple one, like in page 2, like first bar of page 2. Let's see, you have this left hand going up, or the bottom stave going up. And then where do you pedal between that? Because I saw you doing a lot of pedaling. Where are you pedaling on between that 7/8 to the 3/4?
I pedal every time the top part changed note.
Mm-hmm. You might the one that got me, and it's only the first bar where he puts the repeated B flat, like it's a B flat non-melody note that goes into the B flat main melody note in the next stave. For me, and just those bars, and probably just those bars, I would actually move the slur back an eighth note, just because it feels like it kind of muddies the melody a little bit. At least for me, like you hear that B flat that rings, then a pedal, and then the B flat melody note. I felt like I wanted to have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 1, like so the first B flat launches into the melody, because sometimes it kind of feels like it might be, you know, B flat, B flat, B flat, A flat, or wherever it goes. It just gets it a little muddy. And the same thing happens towards the end. There's a slower part where you have the first time at the start of the pattern, he has just a B flat, and then every other time it's supported with a minor seventh blow, I think, a C. Yeah. Like the very last page, he'll have, it says odd tempo, first time melody note's a B flat, and then when that pattern restarts, you have the pickup note C, and then C and B flat, separated by a minor seventh. I think I would do the C going into that one as well a little drier, just for me, just so I hear the meter. Because that's for me, that's always when you have those repeated figures, C, and then the C's also on the downbeat. The pattern's really cool, the 3-3-5, 3-3-5. But sometimes it just gets it feels like a Sophos-esque, where it's just downbeat and go, where it goes over the bar line. So I might consider pedaling those pickup notes of C just to clear up the meter. It's kind of, and that happens a lot throughout. And funny enough, this is one of those tunes that I feel like if you play everything exactly as it's written on the page, it does like 90% of the work for you, because it's marked so well, and there's good slurs and there's good articulations. The challenge is just playing all that cleanly, which is very tough. How do you play like in 198? It's like page 6. You have what's it, 2-4-3, 2-4-2-4. Are you doing?
I do all the right hand with like rotation. So what would it be?
Yeah.
Then I start with like rotation in the left hand. So then it always end up like having the right hand at the same time.
Yeah, it comes out clean. There's no real complaints with that. I think the one that gets messy is when you have a non-repeated note downbeat. So let's say the rhythmic melodiously part. You have D, D, F, D, D, F, D, D, F, D. Hey, there's that repeated figure again. The D repeated, trying to break out somewhere. Let's see where it goes. Then say the start of the next phrase, the 3-8, D, A, D, A, and F, then D, G, and E. It's those couple of melody notes that they just don't always quite speak as cleanly as the others. And for me, it's kind of like playing Bach. If you have a repeated bass note, it's like G, G, G. And after the first 2 or 3, we're like, all right, we get it. We got it. You're playing a pedal G. Let's hear the interesting notes. I kind of think it's a little similar here. Like you're downplaying that repeated D, 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 F, D, D, F, D, D, F, D, D, F, D. And it sounds great, but I think you can pull out the changing release notes. D, A, F with just the hairiest little bit of emphasis, just so we hear that change, so that different pulls out. I think that's what makes pieces like this so tough, is when the melody is so simple, and if we saw the melody on its own, we'd be like, oh, yeah, give me any instrument. Give me I don't even play saxophone. Give me a saxophone. I can shape that pretty well. But when you fill it in with all that running stuff, it makes it so difficult. I think the one that I would watch out for, just in general with the running notes, they come out really great, honestly. You're doing some really cool 4-bar phrasings, or not necessarily 4, but at the end of the long phrase, you always have that little nice hitch before you get into the start of them. So we kind of signal the end of this one, the beginning of the next. And it's only in, say, sections like page 5, where it's a real squared off, very pretty 3-bar, 6 bars together, 6, 6, 6, 6, where it's very linear in its phrasing. I think just in situations like that, just be wary not to do the same thing 4 times in a row. It's like I read this joke about somebody that was like, oh, I went on a date with this guy, and he wore a really nice shirt on the first date. And then the second date, he wore a second nice shirt. So I was like, wow, 2 shirts. And then the third date, he was like, oh, there's the first shirt again. Fourth date is this. Okay, he owns 2 shirts. I think you got to be wary of that when phrasing is like that, when it's very even and almost song-like or poppy in a way. Oh, singing like it literally says, is to, it's like, wow, great phrase. Wow. Again, great phrase. Oh, there's the first phrase again. He knows 2 phrases. You just want to be careful that you don't get predictable. Yeah. Any general questions from you? This one's, I mean, it's tough. Yeah, this is definitely a time on the clock piece.
Yeah. Well, like one thing I struggled a lot with this piece is, well, I felt for a long time like he has a lot of nice like parts, and then he just wrote something to patch them together, and I really struggled for a long time to make all these transitions and then making it sound like one piece and not like 10 small ones, you know.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I get that too. Definitely, it's very segmented as a piece. Not necessarily a bad thing. Maybe, you know, the concept of shapes may very well play into that. You know, how different shapes can be tied together, and they're different on their own, but there's that through line that connects them all, of that pitch that's sustained, that tries to move. Yeah, as far as getting from section to section, that's a tough one. It's a great piece, but that is definitely a challenge of this piece, is it does not lend itself to transitions naturally written in easily. The only ones that really felt weird to me, let's see, I'll have to find real quick. The beginning was great. All the second stuff was great. It was more of when there's the very vast density shifts, like page 3, where it goes from all the notes to just suddenly 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2. That one, and then when there's others, but like when there's the stop in the rigorous section out of nowhere, it just builds and builds and builds and stop. So for the first one, that's a little trickier. For the stop one in the rigorous, I kind of wanted, and again, we're listening online, so it's a little different, but I would love if it's very clean and very pretty. I would love it if like the last, just building up to the stop, could just be, you know, that Xenakis primal, like just one volume, and it's on, and intensity, you know, both physically and, you know, musically, and as a character.
Yeah, before the stop, I try to build up as much as I can, and then it's kind of like, oh, it's done. No, and then it comes this cute melody again, and then no, we're back.
Yeah,
So,
and the stop is like a grand pause, right? You're doing it in time.
Yeah. No, I just, maybe I'm doing in time, but I'm just thinking like stop, and then I breathe, and then I play.
Yeah.
Kind of.
I didn't watch physically or visually in the video. Are you doing like a stop, like a full body stop, like stopping yourself? Or are you just stopping the music and then moving to the next part, or are you?
I think I'm stopping, like respecting that. Also the break, kind of when there's no sound, there's also no movement.
Great.
So I am stopping.
Yeah.
And then I go and play, I think.
I wonder if, because for me, and you can definitely take this or leave this, I feel like it needs a small breath mark or a small fermata at the end of that line after the piano section, before, because it feels like the end. Like if you put a fermata in that stop bar and said the piece was done, I would believe you. But yeah, I mean, my first given was to kind of turn it into a fake out a little bit. And yeah, if you can do the stop, let's see. Da, 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 da. I mean, if there's a way, let's see, right, left, because the C is already, if you can do like a downstroke with your right hand on the C, and then you have the E, and then just sneak into D, 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 or whatever the note is.
Okay.
Anything that like lets it feel like we're stopped, but not really. It kind of comes out of, just emerges a niente. Or sorry.
Yeah. Well, last time I played it, the audience thought it was done, so they started clapping, and then I started playing, and I didn't stop. I was like, do I just stop now, or like we can be done? I don't mind, but
yeah, true. Yeah, something to consider. So, yeah. If it failed once like that, it'll probably happen again. So in that case, yeah. Whatever you do, then whatever you got to do to let them know it's not done.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, sorry, it is very segmented. Yeah, sorry, I can't help you get into 285. I feel like if you could contact or if Vanessa's done anything with the program notes for this, I feel like this is one of those pieces where if you can figure out why it is shapes, like what does that mean to the piece, suddenly it might all connect a little bit. Because it's like anything. We could write an action movie right now. We could write the next Transformers movie. We're gonna have a meeting. We're gonna have a robot fight, a big robot fight, and a romance kiss scene at the end. It's just like, how do we get those together? It's like you got to be a good storyteller. And in this case, without the program notes or talking to the composer, we don't necessarily have the script to the movie. We just have the plot points. But getting some insight into why shapes matter, and it might not be. I mean, my jump to is shapes, but there are other shapes. Physical shapes. Mental shapes. The shapes can be a lot of things. But yeah, I think having some insight onto why shapes for me would help. It's like things like etude and E minor, even though I have pieces called etude and blank. Sometimes those can be really difficult, versus if you have a piece called, I don't know, the Battle of Paris, Texas, where I was born. Suddenly it has like something you can connect to, and it does the work for you a little bit because the story's there. Versus this one, shapes. Yeah, you kind of have to do it for yourself.
Yeah, it was. I think I've listened to the one recording of Vanessa, and then she, where she plays in like Elb Philharmonie or something, but then she cuts out the tricky part. So I don't know.
Don't blame her.
If it's yeah, don't blame her. It's yeah, I don't play it so clean either. It's crazy.
I think that's good. I think if you were to play this very, very clean and true to that rhythm on the page, it's like when you hear somebody that plays maybe only marimba that doesn't have much drum set background or groove background. They play like Libertango by Samu, and if they don't have that groove feeling, it comes out really. It grooves, but it doesn't groove like a drum set player groove. And for you, I think you're doing it right. I think you're playing it.
Okay.
You're playing it like a musician, not a computer. And it might not be exactly what it is, but it comes across and it like works. And honestly, this is one of those pieces. Of course, you want to hit all the right notes, but it goes by so quick that, yeah, there's a lot of notes moving in those lines. When I'm sure there's a few slip ups in there that my ears aren't sharp enough to catch, and yeah, as long as the spirit comes across and like the character comes across, I think you'll know. I mean, you're already killing it. So yeah, I think the next thing is maybe just let go a little bit. Yeah, like our favorite thing we did in grad school was we would always this is a PG-13 audience, and yeah, we would always like practice or whatever, and then if we'd go to bar, have a beer, go to the pub, have a beer or something, then we'd, for fun, on the way back home, we'd come back, play our duo rep or our solo rep just for each other. It's just a little different. I'm not endorsing that method, but you definitely do play like if you have just a different mindset to go into of like, I'm just going to play this like I'm playing this piece for a group of 10-year-olds. It's like, how can I sell this heady contemporary piece to 10-year-olds? And then it does change how you think about things. Yeah. Any other questions for me? I know we're kind of running up on time there, and Tim just popped in.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if we have to wrap up, but
you're okay for a minute. Like, go for it.
Okay. Like for instance, like this piece, which like when I started practicing it wasn't any like recording on anything. Like, how do you approach like new music, which like you cannot listen to like any truth or anything? Like there hasn't been a lot of like, yeah. There's no like correct way of playing it.
Yeah, correct. Whatever that means.
Whatever
that is.
Whatever that means.
For me, I do a lot of. I'll use a lot of piano just so I can get the pitches in my ear. But I do a lot of singing and mental singing because, I mean, I mean, all of us here, our musical brain is far smarter than what our hands can do. Our hands just kind of follow, if we naturally shape something, they're kind of going on muscle memory. But for me, if I can get the pitches, and I was pianoing through that end of it a while ago, and I think it's really helpful to just sing aloud, sing in your head, get the pitches. And even if you're not singing the true pitches, like you can sing the shape you want to hear, and then you go back and you marry the two of what the notes are, what you have in your head, and you find the middle ground of it.
Yeah.
All right. Nice one, Dagfinn.
Yeah,
thanks.
It's awesome.
So we've got a slight technical hitch. We're gonna take you to Venezuela now.
Sure.
But David's got a few connection issues, so he's just gonna try it. David, are you there? We might have to move to Wildlings first.
No worries.
I think he's not there. Right, let's do that then. So, unfortunately, Ryan and Andrew can't be with us, but I did mention this to Caleb earlier that we're just going to play a little bit of Ivan's piece, and then I don't know, maybe we can have a little discussion on the performance. All right, let's go that route then. So this is Wildlings by Ivan Trevino featuring Andrew Norton and Ryan Bond from UNLV.
Yes.
Nice one, guys. I'm sure you'll watch this back on replay later. But yeah,
Definitely.
well done. Any WPGs, by the way, if you want to leave some feedback on the chat, you're welcome to do so as well. We can read those out. But yeah, Caleb, what do you think?
It's cool. I actually haven't heard this piece in a while. Like, I feel like it was very, very, very popular, like right when it came out.
Yeah.
And stayed, and then it disappeared. And now this is like the third group I've seen play it, like in the past year or two. It's cool. It's a fun one to put together, and it flows real well. I think the big one with this and a lot of Ivan's music is interpretation is like, all right, does the meter supersede the rhythm or vice versa? It's like when you have those 4/4, is it 1 and E, 3 and E, or is it 1 and E, 1?
Yeah.
Like, it's written in 4/4 with so many dotted eighths.
I'm glad you said that, because I haven't actually got the score, so thanks.
Oh yeah. There's a lot. It looks like there's a lot of over the bar and a lot of dotted rhythms, and it's like, yeah, is it more important, like say 3/4, are we in 3/4 or are we in 12/16? And it feels like sometimes, especially when there's improv sections, whoever's playing the do-ga-da is 1, 2, 3, 4, and the other is 1 and E, 1 2 and 3. And it's like, yeah, of course, it should be the same, but we're only human. So if one person interprets Phil's quarter notes pulse and the others, it's always going to feel a little different, even if Agadric accents might slip in, things like that. And
yeah, no, I completely agree with you, 100%.
Yeah, it comes up a lot. The quarter note versus dotted eighth and over the bar line stuff. And when it's tight, it's really tight. But then you can tell, especially in sections, there's several improv sections that, you can feel the person that's playing the static pattern. It seems really like they're filling it in 4, and then the soloist is more filling it in 3, basically. And it just creates a rhythmic dissonance that I think might not be wanted by the performers. So that's something to watch out for. It comes up a lot, so much that, and there's some other sections too. Sorry, see if I can find them.
No,
like for the performers, if they have the score, it's page 7. But there's things like where you have basically the Hocketed Swiss Army feel of, where one person has 1 E, a 2, and a E, and 4 E, a 1, and the other has 1 and a E, and 3 E, a 4, and a. So you have that Hocketed figure. And those are always good, but it's getting out of them. There'll be like bar 4/4, 3/16, single hit, bar 4/4, 6/16, bagada dagada, and then 9/16, da da da, between all 3. And the 4/4 is usually fine, and the 9/16 on themselves is fine, but getting into it, it feels very different. Because it feels like the performers, it feels like you're filling dotted eighths, which means a bar of 4/4, then 6/16, you have dagada 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 dagada. There's that little stutter at the end before you get to start back into the dotted eighths. I feel like, putting the focus on the quarter note and the syncopation and how it works around the actual beat. 1, 2, and 3, 4, dagada dagada, 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. It feels more legato. Like, I feel like sometimes when there's like a little dirtiness in the rhythm, or things get a little skewed and then they get back on, it tends to be the times when it's a quarter versus a dotted eighth, and then performers, some of them, it's not anyone's fault, however that word can be applied here. But yeah, sometimes it feels like you saw it at the end too with the click, click, click. Some people have sorry, I was reading the chat. It's a classic mistake. Sorry. Nothing inappropriate. It's
all right. I have the score now. Thanks, Dagfin. It's good.
Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, but as far as hits go, is it 1, 2, 3, or is it 2, 3? Like some of us, sometimes the hits that we're trying to unison, they'll be dotted eighth notes, and some of us are dagada dagada dagada, and then some are dun dun 3. And it's just different, it's, you do the classic test from middle school, primary school. Sorry, I got it for you. But yeah, you hold two things a similar weight at the same height and drop them, they'll hit together. But you throw same height, but you throw one with some force, of course, it's going to hit sooner.
Yeah.
So I think any time you have a unison figure, unison hits, or a hocketed unison pattern, you just have to decide, is it 1E, a 2, and a EN, or is it very 1E, a 2, and a EN? Because if one person's legato, one's staccato, there's always you're just adding another variable for messiness that can pop up.
For sure.
Yeah. Let's see what else with this one. A little thing, but I saw another episode. I think they were doing this with another coach. I can't remember who it was. But if this is a performance, like this is the video you want out, versus, if this is like a run through, that this is more, I guess I could probably ask you, Tim, is this like a performance ready video, or is this more like a state of as it is, like, hey, here's us doing a run?
I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I think this is a recorded video. I don't think it's a live one. I could be wrong, but I think it's recorded.
Yeah. There's just some things, like, say, the opening, and when you have moments of space, sometimes those rhythms, 1 EN, 2 EN, E and a, 2E, 3 EN, sometimes y'all interpret them very crisp, and then sometimes it's very much ba-ba-boom, 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 ba-da-doo, da-da-doo. Like it has a little more flex to it. I think both are fine. I just can't always tell. Like at the beginning, I think it's Ryan, at the beginning, are you trying to play it a little loose with a little more breath in between, where it's real legato? Because at that point, the tempo doesn't matter because y'all aren't playing together. Or do you want to really lock it in with the metronome and play it as is? But yeah, I think whatever happened, I wasn't quite sure if it was a conscious decision or if there was just a little flex in time and rhythm.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with everything you said, actually. Particularly the thing about like having this sort of solid quarter note almost as a sense of home and playing off that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Yeah,
particularly with like a general audience as well. They're going to relate to that more than something slightly more, perhaps conceptually a little bit more complex. So yeah, I agree with that. I've just got, if you will give me a couple of minutes, I've just got a couple of suggestions for the guys, because we've not worked on this, but I thought it had really good energy. The one thing always with like multi-setup like ensembles, particularly like duos and trios, the smaller ones, where you're quite often asked to do a lot of detail because there's only two players. So you've basically got to compensate for potentially what would be a larger ensemble or whatever. There's quite a few factors. Like you got to really try and think about your role, like within the ensemble. Like, are you the melody? Are you the accompaniment? Are you joint in your mentality? Are you supporting, or are you solo, or are you united in a unified melody? Or maybe there is no melody, maybe it's just a texture or something like that. And I felt sometimes some of the like melodic content across some of the drums was just a little lost in translation at times. So I think one coping mechanism, certainly like I've used in the past, which is quite difficult, but is to try and write down and isolate where you feel as an ensemble the melody would be, and take out all of the other material and just see if you can just literally play the melodic part. Now that it could be really quite complicated, because you could be like E, E, 4, but it's only really then do you know where to place it and with how much definition to place it with in comparative to your partner.
Totally.
And I think that method is quite painstaking because it can take quite a long time. But if you really want to like understand a piece and get deep into it, I think that's one of the things I would encourage those guys to do. And then all of the other bits which are not melodic content, you could basically almost treat them as ghost notes then, to just almost what word am I trying to use? Just try and minimize, almost like you got a mixing desk, you're just taking down all the non-important material just to highlight that. So I'd encourage the guys to do that. I don't know if the djembe bit's the impro bit. I didn't have the score. Is that impro?
Yeah, it looks pretty much both of the hand drum sections for improvise, where it has one person just dugga and the other plays more solo.
Yeah. I really like the beginning of the djembe bit. I thought that could have probably gone on a little bit more. Ryan, I think you could have probably let rip a little bit more actually for a bit longer, but that's just my personal opinion. What I did feel would be quite cool is, and I understand why you did it because you wanted to sort of communicate together, but for me, like if you could have had the congas in front of you, it would have visually looked better because you've almost had sort of like a Latin setup, like the congas and stuff. And you could have actually put them quite close to each other. So you could have still had the communication, but the audience will have still been, engaged visually in that sense. Yeah. Not that playing side by side or facing each other is, a bad thing. Like we've used it all the time, but I just felt with this one, certainly as it's a more improvisatory feel, like it lent itself a little bit more to that sort of setup for me. And I think it would have, had a lot stronger message. Just a couple of small points as well, like with the hand drums, really try and work on some of the quieter playing and the tones of the quieter sections, just trying to get like really nice open tones on the drums at all times, whether you're using one finger maybe or two, just try and work on the quality of the tone there. And I think that was pretty much it. I thought it had great energy. Mm-hmm. Thought it had really good groove, but as I say, if you work on my first point, I think it could groove a lot stronger for sure.
Yeah. The improv stuff, definitely that's where I felt like the quarter versus dotted eighth was the strongest, because that accompaniment line, even though it's in three, it very much feels like it's one lolly, two lolly, three lolly, four lolly. And then there was some, particularly the djembe, I think it was the djembe solo. I might be mistaken. It all went by pretty quick.
Yeah.
It's sometimes it felt like it fell into more free improv, not free in the sense that it was very loose, but it felt less rhythmic improv and more like just a little free. I think both can work, but for me, it's kind of like why a song, like somebody playing drum set that can like hold down a bayon or a samba so well with their feet and do all the crazy stuff over the top of it. That's what makes it cool, is you've established time, and now this is how. I mean, it's like good harmony or using good harmonic, motion. It's like, here's our harmony, and then here's our non-chord tones to create the tension. But I think if you don't have that bass that's real secure, it just feels like it'll start to feel like free improv, which in this instance I don't think you want. But there was one that got me on this one, and I think this happens with a lot of Ivan's music, especially duos, where it'll have fermatos before recaps.
Oh yeah.
And like page 7 for us, before it starts back into the main theme of everything. And it just waited, and then we kept waiting. It felt like a very long time, and there was another pause that it felt long to me, at least, because there is. I think that's what's kind of cool is Ivan does put in the metric modulation, so dotted eighth note becomes eighth note, but then he throws the fermata in purely out of convenience for you to get back to the instrument and just a breath. But I think I treat that fermata as more of a breath mark. There's a triplet. Like a grand pause 2/4 bar, because the groove goes through the whole thing that it feels so abrupt when it suddenly gets taken away, and then we get it back, but it's new, and the last thing we heard is a triplet, so we hear da da dum. Is that one lolly, two lolly, three lolly, or it just screws with your ear just a little bit? Yeah, for sure. But great. I mean, it's very good playing. I think your comment about ghost notes and picking out the composite melody would be a well endeavor.
That's the word I was looking for. Composite melody. Yeah, you see.
Yeah,
Yeah. Composer.
There it is. There it is. I've done my task for the day.
Yeah, cool. I really enjoyed it, guys. There's only one other thing I felt at the beginning, and I think you kind of touched on this as well, because we're not really sure with like where the pulse lies. I felt like gesturally, you can actually visually like try and mimic each other to try and blend not only audio but also visual as well together. And sometimes, Ryan, we've talked about this before, like trying not to give the pulse away with your body. Like I'm going to play this at the beginning because it's right at the beginning.
Yeah.
So we've already, it's really great to try and establish, and Caleb, you mentioned this at the beginning, like you see people's, they get ready and then they go into a chorale, as you say.
Yeah, right.
And it's great to get into character, like before a piece, just to give the audience a bit of an idea, like what's coming. But sometimes you don't want that. Sometimes you want it to be a surprise. So for me, like I feel we're being told too much information here.
Yeah.
So we already know that's going to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you can see, like, debatably, like the outside parts are working together, maybe. So they could be the same height. They could have a little bit more like molar whip on them, just to visually have a bit more appeal. And then you start to get like a unique concept between the two players, which is working in unison, not just with the rhythm. So
yeah, it really reminds me of, a lot of Rocket 2's rep as well, where so many of y'all's setups have that mirror image effect, and playing off of it, you may as well. But I totally agree. Now seeing it for the second time, I don't know Andrew super well, but I have confidence he's a good enough musician. If you give him 1 EN, 2 EN, he's got the tempo. He's solid. Yeah. So I would just, for Ryan, just go right up and
exactly.
Yep. Yeah.
You can walk up pretty confidently. Have it. That's all you need. Cool. Okay. Well, it's 7:30. So, Ryan, Andrew, well done. Congratulations.
Yeah. Very nice.
Wishes to you both. All right.
And then there was one. Hey, and David.
Sorry, I muted myself. David, how are you? Are you there? Is the connection good? Maybe not. Okay, so what we'll do with this... Yeah, we can hear you, yeah.
Hello.
Great.
Do you want to just talk a little bit about yourself and what you're going to play?
Okay. Well, I'm Luis Fernandez. I'm currently living and playing in Caracas, Venezuela. I usually perform with my orchestra, Juan José Landeta Symphony Orchestra, from El Sistema. And the piece what I will play is Ritmo Maquia from Diego Morales. It's a piece written for me with some details that make this piece like personal with the relationship the friendship that I have with the composer. There are like little Easter eggs that we can connect in that little details in the composition. So this is a piece so special for me, and I hope that you enjoy it.
Yeah,
All
thanks.
right. Here we go.
Cool. Interesting piece. It's new, yeah. That's a good one. Hey, what does out of curiosity, at the last page, the tape says Bruckner/typing?
Okay. Well, in different places, like bar 18, 29, 32, and that bar 82, I think. The Bruckner thing, it's about the seventh Bruckner symphony that we have memory together, the composer and me, that we remember that the main subject of that symphony, and that subject he break it up and he reconstruct remade it with some kind of details different in the tape. So that Bruckner with exactly Bruckner with typing, it's the combination of the Bruckner subject and the typing subject that we can hear in the measure, I think, 32 when I play at the resonators.
Right.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, so this whole piece is like a little time capsule for you two. Like it has so many hidden things. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a really cool piece. For the tape, do you have to have headphones? Is there like a click track?
Yeah. At the moment of recording it, I have headphones. Yeah.
Sure. Is it a type of tape where you have to be lined up with certain things, or is it more just a soundscape? And as long as you're within a couple of seconds, it's okay?
Yeah, actually, the tape it's a little bit freely. So we can play over it. We can even have it, but there is like a write about the piece that where it tells that the piece can be the sections can be repeated until we get the another kind of tape, because the different subject of the tape are clearly different, and if we cannot if we don't get that different subject of tape at time, we can repeat the last subject that we play.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah. I think one that might help with this is just hitting some, because there is a lot of space, which for percussionists is scary, because if you're playing clarinet, you can stand there with your instrument on your face. But for us, we're kind of naked. We're exposed when we're not physically moving. We have to just be still or move gently to our next thing. I would just watch out for some of the things. Like I noticed you do a lot of mallet changes, and you have it behind you, which is really impressive that you're able to grab it so confidently, and it's clearly worked on. I might try either. Well, you have to play on the resonator, so probably not bags, but even side tables. It's just every time we like lose your face and get like a side profile is okay, but like when we get your back, since there is so much space, it feels like it disconnects us. And then when you come back around, I feel like I get re-engaged, but it almost feels like I'm listening to the tape and you come in for moments to give us things and then you disappear and then you come back to tell us more. I would just try to, whatever you can do to eliminate, you don't have a lot of visual noise. So like you're not doing the between, sections of all the crazy stuff like some people do. But I think just thinking about like how you're presented to the audience. And one thing that might help, that might make that back table a little cleaner, is in the past year, I've started angling my marimbas at like a 30 degree. And it does allow you to, you feel a little more confident because the audience can they don't just see the resonators in your face. and the edges of the bars, they can see a little bit of the instrument, and you can move around a little more. And when you do have to do like moves, we see you moving versus if I'm looking straight at you and you move, you kind of look like this. You do one of these where you're just sliding left or you're turning. Like it feels very robotic. Versus if you're at an angle, I already have a little bit of depth. So like say like right now, like I'm facing, if you're the audience, like and I move, like it just gives a little depth. You get to see a little bit more of the instrument and a little bit more of you. And you never have that. Even if you do have to turn around, like I have to turn around and grab something, I still feel like I'm connected to the audience versus when I'm straight ahead and I have to turn around, it like clips the connection like between my eyes and theirs. So just something to think about. There's so many moments of space in this that this would be I think this would be a hard piece. I would have to like sit and feel comfortable with it because you have to get comfortable with that space. The playing stuff is very good. The only ones that stick out a little, watch out for the page 2. It might have just been in that performance, but page 2, line 2. Let's see. There's that. Let's see. Little 6 doublet. Then whatever it is. I don't think it sounded like some of those notes. Maybe it was just going a little fast, but I was just happened to be following along with that line, and I didn't hear quite the E flat, the little upper neighbor tone come out. So just something to check out. Sorry, I am not that picky on notes. That just happened to be one bar that I saw that stuck out to me here. There's a lot of feather beaming, especially in the first half, and well, kind of throughout, where you have the slow to fast, and this over 6 seconds. I think just thinking about how you want to pace them, especially the first one, where you go from Coligno to so at letter B, are you playing the downbeat with yarn mallet? Both notes are with yarn mallet. Okay. I think of the downbeat of B. I think of it as the arrival note, but it's like the trampoline note. You arrive on it, but it launches, ba-ding! It launches the other one up. So for me, getting into that, it kind of sounded like the line from A to B. It was very true to the page where it started out bump, 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 bump. And it was very evenly paced. I would do it like how you would, and you did something here, like how you do how often do you actually play a crescendo that goes like this, very evenly spaced? It's always like, or it'll have a bell at the end, or it'll be a swell at the beginning. It's so rare to play like a perfectly even move the mixer board sound up crescendo. I think it's the same thing here. Just make sure you have the feather beaming effect. It's a lot of ledger lines. But start with whatever the last cell of notes are that releases into B. Do-dee-da-da-da-da-dum, or ba-da-da-da-da-dee-dum. And then just work on that bit, like figure out where the last 2, 3, 4 notes that are more of just a flurry, and then back up into them. So go back a little bit more, and keep doing it over and over again, because you're playing it extremely accurate, to the point. It's kind of nice because now we can just say, hey, that thing you're using so much brain power to do, and evenly speed that up. Just be a little looser with it and, push it to the back half. So you go slow, medium, and then it has that nice chill. Because we go from pianissimo to forte, and with wood, so it's already a pretty sharp timbre, so you don't really have to work very hard. And with wood, there's only so hard you can play the notes since it's not yarn. So I think your big one is dee dum bum beep ba da 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 yadum.
Okay.
And then big pause, beat 'em. Bum, bum. Yeah, there's so much. it's like these little swells to explosion and freeze. It's almost like a camera shot, snapshot,
Okay.
snapshot, and then you're back into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, just things to look out for. If I didn't have the score, I probably would have thought it was written a little differently. Page 2, I love how the composer wrote this. I think some people might find it like a little off-putting, the 3 time signatures and the 3 tempos, but I really like it because it just shows how like it's just you just place them, and the top line they're quick, the bottom line is medium, and then you have the slow constant in the middle. Yeah, it's really cool. I think just watch out for the composer specifies like 1, 2, 3, like the 4th bar of D. 2 of those notes are 16ths, bum, bum, ba, bum, bum, and then the next 2 are 36, bum, bum, ba, bum. They're like fast. They look faster than me, at least on my PDF.
Yeah.
That's a little blurry. Just little things like that.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
In this section, actually, the composer, one of the things that he told me, it's that the principal subject in this section, it's the quarter note 16.
Yeah.
The second one. That it's the main voice, actually, not the 7/4 or the 6/4. The 4/4,
Sure.
it's the principal voice. So it's like he's playing like a harpsichord, and he's like testing the octaves and playing a little bit, improvising a little bit, but staying at the tempo with this quarter note at C. Always like a ostinato, like a ostinato.
Yeah. I would keep as you're do it like that, and then just be real careful about, say like the 90 line, like if it has the spacing of quarter, or 16ths or 32nd, just making them a little tighter. Like if you like the 30 seconds, maybe squeeze them down a little bit. Quarters, let them breathe a little bit, just so that we can tell that there's variety, because the whole thing it's slowly like compressing on itself in that voice. Ba-bum, ba-ba, ba-ba, ba-da-da-da-dum. Yeah, it kind of just gets more and more tense as it goes, along with the tape. The tape line actually visually gets more tense as it goes as well. Yeah, it's that whole D section. I think is my favorite bit of music from this. It's just such a cool effect, and the way he chose to notate it, it makes sense. It looks scary at first, but it makes total sense. And then little sections like E and F, and wherever the E, F, and G, where you have those long pauses.
Yeah.
I think this is a piece that might be a good opportunity to get with the composer, clearly you're a friend with. I feel like this piece needs an element of lighting. Like it needs, even if it's someone else working lights and it's in the dark and it just has ins and outs, because you've memorized it, it seems. So the piece well enough that it really feels like there could be video or lighting or some visual element to add. There's nothing missing from it, but I think that would add so much to have someone that can coordinate, lighting or background figures or video, things of that nature. Because, I just noticed that it says for marimba and super collider. So I assume these are samples from like a super collider noise that he's played with. I feel like between that and the Bruckner and all the inside jokes y'all have with it, there's like so much that the audience would be like, of course, this makes sense when they get that visual. Or even things like lighting, that I remember that light system before, that they're tied together now. It's related. And then I think the part that was a little H and I. So H, you have the soft mallet rolls. All that was fine. Getting into the I, the bowing, There it's good. At the end for the long bowing, I feel like there's some experimentation you could do. I didn't see if there was a. I can't translate the full performance note at K, but I think it would be cool if you can do some shorts and longs. Like he marks everything legato with the slur, but there are like the way that low end speaks, it's so quiet, but you can like long roars, and you can, since you have the tinfoil, you can sustain some. You can do quick pulls. You can do sharp sounds that go into
Okay.
like there's a lot of timbral exploration. If it was any less, I would say probably just keep with the color. But that 3 minutes is a pretty long time, so I think it's a good chance to play with some colors. Love the ending. So the 5/12 bars, there's just triplets, yeah, irrational meter triplets at the speed. Because you got 5/8, 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2, and then the 5/12 is the speed of the triplet before. 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5. Like it's just a little bit quicker.
Yeah, the 5/12. Okay.
Mm-hmm. I would pull the 5/12s out a little louder.
Okay.
Because at this speed, it is such the eighth note in the 5/8 compared to the eighth note in the 5/12. They're so similar. Sometimes, like if I wasn't looking at it, I might think you just got nervous and sped up a little bit, or maybe you had a brain slip and you went louder and just pulled something out a little too much. But I think leaning into the 5/12s with maybe a touch quicker. I know it's a real hard tempo to find because it is very narrow. It's just a little quicker, but leaning into a little bit faster and a little bit, just a tiny bit more volume, just so we know you're not making a mistake. And because before that, 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5, it's grooving along, and then we get the over the bar line accents and the sporadic ones, and then this creates some disjunct feelings, and then we get the 5/12, the triplet figure, and it'd be great if you just leaned into it, so we really know it was like steady 5/8 with unstable accents, fully unstable 5/12 bar reset, so we really feel the tension, like, because literally what the composer is doing, it feels like he's doing the very first bar. He's going from soft to loud, slow to fast. He's just doing that with rhythmic dissonance instead. So even, distance, more. And I think that's the mindset you need to take into like the first bar, separate it into the 3 chunks. The last chunk being the little flourish into the downbeat of B. The first chunk, the first third of it being like placement notes, like establishing that we're starting and building speed. And then the middle where you actually do the hard work, because that's the hard part of the first bar, is the middle section of notes. Everyone can play beat, ba, da, 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 and everyone can go, ba-yum. It's just that connecting them in between.
Okay.
It's a cool piece. I tried to Google the composer, and it was right before this, so I didn't get a chance to look if he has any more music, but yeah, good piece. I think this would be one that I think would benefit a lot from some lighting design or some video if he's got the chops for that, and as well as maybe not using headphones. Like if there's a way that you can have the speakers aim to you, so it feels more like you are playing and the soundtrack is accompanying you, versus the sound is happening and you're coming in every now and then to give us some extra information.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a cool piece though. Yeah. Very, very interesting and refreshing. It's new music that's like actually new music. It doesn't feel like something I've heard before. It feels very fresh.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Good job, David.
Yeah. Cool stuff.
All right. So, thank you, Caleb, for your time this evening.
Yeah,
afternoon probably, but really great to have you back, and it's good to see your career flourishing as well as a lot of the WPGs are. So Just a couple of notices. Firstly, don't forget to check out our showcase concert. If you didn't catch it yesterday, it's on YouTube. And tomorrow we host Michael Burrett from 6 to 8:30 UK time. That's 5 till 7:30 UTC time. So we'll see you there for some Michael Burrett action tomorrow. Until then, Caleb,